Rest in peace to a music legend, Irv Gotti, who unfortunately has passed away at the age of 54. Irv reportedly passed away in New York City. We obviously know his track record. The once head of Murder Inc. through Def Jam made a lot of noise, touching the careers of the likes of DMX, Ja Rule, Ashanti, just to name a few. Although no cause of death has been released at this time, a lot of people are kind of pointing to some recent interviews that Irv had done over the past few years in which he spoke about having diabetes and struggling with it and going back and forth with the doctor about the diet, and even admitted he struggled with making sure he took his insulin at one point in time. Rest in peace to Irv. His impact will live through not only his artists like Ja Rule, and I know things got rocky, but obviously Ashanti. His impact will live through generations of artists and executives who have the ultimate confidence because they saw guys like Irv Gotti do it in the 90s and 2000s. I know for me, I never got to meet Irv Gotti, but I do have an Irv Gotti story, which is very weird, and I don't want to make this about myself. I met his brother, Chris Gotti, at CIAA a few years ago when it was still in Charlotte, and here's the thing. Chris and Irv Gotti look just alike, and it caught me off guard. Chris was actually in the stands of a basketball celebrity game, and if I remember this story correctly, me and Chris were talking for like 15, 20 minutes, and I'm thinking I'm talking to Irv Gotti. I'm like, oh, I just met Irv Gotti. But the reality was I met bro Chris, which is still an honor and a privilege to talk to Chris Gotti at the time, but it wasn't Irv, and I just was kind of like all over the place. I'm sure Chris is going through it. I want to send up the biggest prayers to Irv's family. I'm sure this is a difficult time. The last we publicly seen of Irv was a part of that documentary that he did, right? That was the last we had seen of him. I know there was a couple of images surfacing of Irv Gotti a few months ago where he was reportedly using a cane to walk after he admitted that he suffered a stroke, but he said it was just a minor stroke. I want to be clear about this, and I'm gonna get up out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, people close to you are suffering battles privately, and they're lying to you publicly. Okay, I just want to put that out there. People have the right to leave us the way they want to leave us. It's not our right to tell people how to do that. And check on your friends, but really check on your people. My prayer is people around Irv knew enough to be as prepared as possible for this very traumatic moment that you can never be 100% prepared for. And I'm praying that his family and friends get the closure that they need. And, music is going to have to mourn this one for a long time, man. Irv Gotti was an immensely talented human being and had an ear for music. And we'll just tell the story really quickly for all of my younger audience out there that doesn't know who the heck Irv Gotti is. Essentially, Irv created Murder Records, and they had a lot of success. Ja Rule sold a lot of records before there was a Drake, okay, before there was a Weeknd, before there was some of these other pop acts that you know today that are great at making records. There was a Ja Rule, and he was on fire. Some of the biggest records ever were coming through Murder Records and Def Jam, and essentially some street stuff got in the way. And you mix in Supreme, and you mix in the Hip Hop Police, and a big old investigation into money laundering between Supreme and Murder Inc. and a lot of other stuff that I'm sure some of y'all know about that I'll refrain from getting into in this video. We'll do it in a separate video, but for this sake's purposes, it took the laws to stop what Irv Gotti and Murder Inc. were doing, right? They were on fire, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? If they never calmed down, if that investigation never takes place, how hot would they have been, and what's different today? Rest in peace to Irv Gotti. Your legacy will live on. I want to thank y'all so much for the time, love, and support, which your boy would never take for granted. Rest in peace, Irv Gotti. Going too soon. Still too soon. 54, still too soon. Rest in peace, Irv Gotti. He leaves us at 54.